lecture. Today class will be given by two great devotees, Abhay Kulkarni prabhu and Rohini mataji. Both are very familiar to our congregation. But our purification, though does not require any introduction, but our purification telling few words. One of Abhay Prabhu, one of the senior devotee in our congregation, and selflessly serving in background. Big support to our temple. Abhay Prabhu performs Kirtan at devotees' houses and glorifies the Lord name. And Prabhu, well noted as Gandharva of fasting. Rohini mataji doing many services such as cooking, cleaning, garland making, and also conduct Bhagavad Gita classes on Friday for temple. They won't take any recognition, and a symbol of humility, they surrender to Guru and Krishna. With them, we will welcome them by loudly chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra once. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you, Prabhu. Over to you.
Thank you, Satyarupa Garanga Prabhu, for introduction. We will start with singing Jai Radha Madhava. जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनातीरावनचारी यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनातीरावनचारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Shila Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Shri Shri Radha Damodar ki Jai, Divine Protector Nrsimhadev Bhagavan ki Jai, Bhagavad Vani Bhagavad Gita ki Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Nitai Gaura Premanandi.
Hari Hari Bo. Devotees, can you move towards your right so that whoever can join, they can join easily there. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we will read from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, verse 4. Chapter 14, verse 4. So we can go to the next slide. Yeah, thank you. Sarvayonishu Kaunteya Murtaya Sambhavantiyaha Tasam Brahma Mahadyoni Aham Bija Pradapita Sarvayonishu Kaunteya Murtaya Sambhavantiyaha Tasam Brahma Mahadyoni Aham Bija Pradapita Sarvayonishu Kaunteya Murtaya Sambhavantiyaha Tasam Brahma Mahadyoni Aham Bija Pradapita
Sarvayonishu Kaunteya
Sarvayonishu Kaunteya
Murtaya Sambhavantiya
Tasa
Brahma Mahadyoni
Tasa Brahma Mahadyoni
Aham Bija Pradapita
Aham Bija Pradapita. So we'll have two prabhus and two matajis repeat, please. Prabhus. Sarvayonishu Kaunteya Murtaya Sambhavantiyaha Tasam Brahma Mahadyoni Aham Bija Pradapita Sarvayonishu Kaunteya Murtaya Sambhavantiyaha Tasam Brahma Mahadyoni Aham Bija Pradapita. सर्वयोनिषु कौन्तेय मूर्तया सम्भवन्ति याः तेषां ब्रह्म महद्योनि अहं बीजप्रदापिता सर्वयोनिषु कौन्तेय मूर्तया सम्भवन्ति याः तासां ब्रह्म महद्योनि अहं बीजप्रदापिता सर्वयोनिषु कौन्तेय मूर्तया सम्भवन्ति याः तासां ब्रह्म महद्योनि अहं बीजप्रदापिता सर्वयोनिषु कौन्तेय मूर्तया सम्भवन्ति याः तासां ब्रह्म महद्योनि अहं बीजप्रदापिता. Thank you. So let's read the translation. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving father. So there is a short purport by Srila Prabhupada. If somebody can read the purport, please.
In this verse, it is clearly explained that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the original father of all living entities. The living entities are combinations of the material nature and the spiritual nature. Such living entities are seen not only on this planet, but on every planet, even on the highest where Brahma is situated. Everywhere there are living entities. Within the earth there are living entities, even within water and within fire. All these appearances are due to the mother, material nature, in Krishna's seed-giving process. The purport is that the material world is impregnated with the living entities who come out in various forms at the time of creation according to their past deeds.
Thank you. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruvai Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakammalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamcha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Runatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakham He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you everyone. First of all, we express our gratitude to His Grace Satyasara Prabhu and Jasodhara Mataji for giving us this service. We personally feel very unqualified, but with your mercy and blessings, we'll try to do this service for our own purification. We also like to get blessings from all the Vaishnavas in this assembly. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about various living entities. So let's start from the living entities. So how many living entities do you see in this room? Some that we can count, right? But there are many others that we cannot count and cannot see, right? So there are many other living entities here other than, devotees. We have ants, insects, and there are other millions of bacteria and viruses in this room. So there are millions of entities, even this room itself. Now let's talk about our planet Earth. On this Earth, how many living entities would be there? The scientists go They go everywhere, try searching for living entities. Every time they go in the jungles of Indonesia, they find like 5 different types of frogs. Or they go into like a new trench in Pacific Ocean and they find like 10 new species of aquatics. So there are living entities everywhere. Like, now because of the global warming, the ice is melting. And the German scientists, they went to Antarctica and then they found 77 new species that they have never seen before. So all those species, all those living bodies, they were there in the ice from millions of years. We did not know about them. We have no idea how they live there, survive there. In the Yellowstone National Park, there is boiling water, but there are bacteria, and then algae that lives in that water. So the life can be there, life forms can be there in the most harshest of the conditions. Scientists have found spiders 3 miles above the Earth's surface. So they are everywhere. Now talk about this solar system, like this universe. People think, or scientists think that there is no life on moon or sun or like any other planets, but there is life on every planet, starting from the planet of Brahma, which is the topmost planet, to the lowermost planet, to the lower planetary system. So it's only like, we don't have means, or we don't have this this technical know-how or technology to see these things. Scientists only use their material instruments to kind of like identify those living forms, and then somehow they say, well, there is nothing in there, but that's not the case. And then looking at this from a universal perspective, if we have so many living entities here on the earth or like on this material universe, this material universe is just one of the material universes which is there in the material creation. So, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam says that this universe is just one mustard seed in a bag of mustard seed. So we can imagine like how many living entities we may have. And then this material creation is just the 1/4 of the total creation. So that means there are endless, infinite number of living entities. So let us see where all these living entities coming from. So I'm going to share a very high level description of the creation process as it is presented in Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto. Again, it's a very high level presentation. So we can have the next slide, please. So first of all, we should know that everything exists under Lord Krishna's feet, and he is called the Ashraya Tattva. So Ashraya Tattva means everything is dependent on him. He's independent, but everything else depends on him. And then everything else, that is below Lord Krishna's lotus feet, that is called the Ashrita Tattva. That means that is dependent on Krishna. So that is like a very high leveling up, like, where Krishna is and where everything else is. So we have the spiritual world and the material world. The spiritual world is the larger part of the creation. Material world is only a small part of the creation. And then what Lord Krishna does, sometimes he uses his spiritual energies. He has multiple energies. Sometimes he uses his spiritual energy to do things. Sometimes he uses his material energy. And sometimes he incarnates for the purpose of material creation. Sometimes, there are incarnations on the spiritual plane. So in the context of material creation, Lord Krishna has Purusha avatars, So there are 3 Purusha avatars. The first one is called the Karnodakshayi Vishnu or Mahavishnu. So he's also called the plenary portion. So what does the Mahavishnu does? Mahavishnu breathes. He exhales and he inhales. So when he exhales, millions of universes manifest from the bodily pores. And then these universes are full of material elements. So as we all know, there are 24 different material elements. So when the universes are created, all the material elements are just in a lump. So it's called pradhana, or the unmanifested state. So this is also the material nature in the subtle state. Now, what are those 24 elements? Like we have the 5 gross elements like the earth, water, fire, ether, 5 knowledge acquiring senses, eye, ears, nose, tongue, skin. We have 5 working senses, voice, legs, hands, anus, and genitals. We have 5 objects of senses, smell, taste, form, touch, and sound. And then we have 4 subtle elements, false ego, intelligence, unmanifested stage of the material modes, and the mind. So then what Mahavishnu does, he glances on the pradhana. So let's go to the next slide, please. So he glances on the pradhana, And then what does he do? He injects 4 things into the pradhana. He injects all the living entities in the pradhana. At the same time, he also injects their karma, their swabhava, that means their nature, and the kala or time. So when he does that, the unmanifested, which was just like a lump of material elements, it gets agitated. And then this agitation happens because of the time. So let's try to understand this using a mundane example. For example, there is a car manufacturer. He manufactures cars, and then the cars are already they are all assembled nicely. There is also gas in the tank, and then the cars come out in a lot. And then would those cars go anywhere on their own? They will not, right? So somebody has to push the ignition button or like put a key in the ignition. So only then those cars would activate and can go there anywhere. So this is like a similar concept as that. So what is making the change? The time is bringing in the change. With the time, the nature of the time is to bring a change. It's so what time does? It starts agitation and it start the process, and then the material element starts to unmanifest. So then this pradhana or the unmanifested state becomes prakriti, and then this prakriti has the material universe, like this is a high level, and then all the jivas and the 3 material modes of nature. Now after the 1,000 years of inactivity, Mahavishnu enters again. So now Mahavishnu was as a Karnodaksha Vishnu, he created the universe, but then he enters again into the universes that he created, and that incarnation is called the Garbhodaksha Vishnu, and then he becomes the controller of those universes. Now somebody can say that how come Mahavishnu can create so many material universes and does not deplete himself? Like we see in our mundane examples, like let's say you have a bank account with $1,000 on it, and then we just keep withdrawing the money. At one point, the bank account would finish, right? Or you have a glass of water, you start pouring water from it, and then the water would finish. So the depletion or exhaustions, those are the qualities of the matter. But Mahavishnu is not matter. He is absolute. He is absolute. So Ishopanishad says, Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnaya Purnasya Udaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. So the meaning is, even though all these universes are coming out of Mahavishnu's body, it doesn't change him. He remains complete. There is no depletion on him. He remains in complete balance. Now from the Garbhodaksha Vishnu, now we are inside a universe. Let's go to the next slide. From the Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Lord Brahma is created. There is a lotus flower that comes out of the navel, and then Lord Brahma is created, and he is the first living entity of the material universe. So, but is he the primary creator? No, he is the secondary creator. So, some people believe that Lord Brahma is creating everything, but the answer is that understanding is wrong. Lord Brahma is given everything. He is given the instructions, he is given the matter, he's given all the entire instruction manual, and then he starts doing the creations. So what he does, he creates all the different body forms. He creates different planetary systems. He creates suns, moons, he creates demigods. And then finally, the third Purusha avatar is the Kshirodaksha Vishnu. Like he expands, the Lord then expands as the Paramatma form. And then what Paramatma does, he accompanies every soul in the different body forms. And he also occupies every atom in this universe. So this is the process of creation high level. But then when it's time for Mahavishnu to inhale, again, like the time gap between the exhales and inhales is like trillions of years. But when it's time to inhale, that is the end of the cosmic manifestation. And everything that has been created, again, the process reverses. All the material elements which were manifested, they becomes unmanifested. And then in the state of pradhana, and then they enter back into the body of the Mahavishnu. So this creation and destruction, it's like a cyclic process, just like a clock. The clock goes round and round. So just like a day and night. Srila Prabhupada, he gives a very good example in the purport of the previous where we are doing 14.4. In 14.3, Srila Prabhupada gives this example that sometimes scorpions, they lay eggs into rice. And in the due course of time, when the baby scorpions come out, people think that the scorpions are born out of rice. But that is not a correct understanding. What is the right understanding is the mother scorpio who has laid the eggs, and then the eggs and the scorpions they seem to come out of the rice, but that does not mean the scorpions are being born from the rice. So that is understanding. It appears that the living entities are taking form from the material world, but they do not. The process doesn't start from the material world. So we saw that the process in this creation process, like Lord Krishna is the seed-giving father, and the mother is the material nature. So even though Lord Krishna starts everything, he doesn't remain involved in this process. He remains detached, and by the karma and the swabhava of every living entity, a particular body is given to them. And then once a living entity gets a body, the material nature acts on the body by the three modes of material nature. Rohini will talk more about that. So, so one can think, well, why living entities are taking the bodies? It's because we are trying to we have this unnatural desire to act like a lord. We want to enjoy Lord's property. Enjoying Lord's property is unnatural. So we can just understand it as a simple example. Like, for example, who does Mother Sita belongs to? Lord Rama, right? So, and what was Ravana trying to do? He was trying to enjoy, right? So he kidnapped Sita, and he desired to enjoy her. So he was trying to lord over what belonged to Lord Rama. So eventually, what happened? He suffered. He lost. He lost his happiness. He suffered. He lost all his possessions. He lost everything. So similarly, when we try to act like Lord and try to enjoy His property, we get kicked out of our original position. We lose our original position. So, people have tendency to steal Lord property. We see, like in this Kali Yuga, like everybody is collecting money, possessions, building houses, things like that. I was thinking, there is a poet, and then he once said, "Kafan mein jeb nahi hoti." What that means? Kafan means shroud, or the cloth that is wrapped on the dead body. So he's saying that cloth, it doesn't have a pocket. So this is very profound, because that means whatever we are trying to do or achieve for ourselves, we cannot take it anywhere. It's just going to be left behind. Somebody can argue, well, I'm doing it for my family, but let's think about it. Can they take it with them? So what is the best policy? The best policy is Yukta Vairagya. We detach ourselves from the matter. At the same time, we engage into Lord's loving service. Lord Krishna says himself in the Bhagavad Gita 1865, "Manmana bhav mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyose me." So, we can also look at this material creation as a jail. There are laws in the society, like government makes laws. But if somebody doesn't follow the law, they break the laws, they go to a jail, and then they suffer for their, for the reactions. So when they go to jail, they are rehabilitated. And when they are deemed fit to join the society back, they are released from the jail. But most people, they don't understand this. They are, even if they are in the jail, they just want to use every opportunity to kind of enjoy. Like we see in the Hollywood or the Bollywood movies, like somebody goes to jail, and even in jail they try to set up territories. They are fighting with other people. They are wanting to get possessions from outside. So that's what is going on. So that is why knowledge is very important. Srila Bhakti Thakur wrote a beautiful song on this aspect. Jiva jago, Gaura Chandra bhole, Kota nidra jao maya, Pishachir khole. So the translation is, the Lord Gauranga is calling, wake up sleeping souls, wake up sleeping souls. How long will you sleep in the lap of the witch that is called Maya? So I'll turn over to Rohini for the next part. Thank you.
Yeah, so we just saw the high level creation. So we originally belong to the spiritual world, and being part and parcel of the world, spiritual world, by nature, the living entity is full of knowledge, bliss, and is eternal. But since the living entities wanted to enjoy separately from Lord, they wanted to become independent, they were sent to the material world that the Lord created for them. So when His Grace Radheshyam Prabhu visited Austin in one of his classes, he was mentioning an example about how a child wanted to drive the real car of his father, and he was very small, just 5-6 year old. So what did the father do? The father gave him a toy car which was big enough so he can independently drive, and father was driving side by his son, and the son was enjoying, thinking that he is controlling the car, he is driving. But eventually the son got tired, then he put that car in his father's car and they both went. So this is what we are also doing, and Prabhu explained that we wanted to enjoy, so Lord created this material nature, and then Lord let us be independent and live in this material world. And when we become tired of the miseries and coming and going again and again, then Lord, and when we look up to Lord, just that the Father was with the Son, similarly the Spirit, Lord is in form of the super soul in our heart. So when the Lord looks at us and He sees we are ready, He takes us home back to Godhead. So, so to facilitate our enjoyment, this material nature is created by Lord. And this material nature, because of illusion, the living entity is covered by 3 modes of material nature. Why there is illusion? Because living entity is the superior energy of the Lord, and the material entity is the inferior energy of the Lord. So it creates the illusion when they come in material nature, and also the illusion is created so they can enjoy independently. So there are 3 modes which they are covered with. First is mode of goodness, which is called as Sattva Guna, mode of passion, Rajoguna, and mode of ignorance, Tamoguna. So just like when we mix the primary colors red, blue and green, we get different colors. So when these 3 modes are mixed, they produce different variety of species. And so different variety of species are produced according to the nature that they have, the material nature. And we see in this world there are so many different variety of species. We rarely find a person exactly similar to you or same in understanding, because everyone is their mixture of all the modes. And also the way they also affect the way we function mentally, the way we work, the way we act. So these modes make us do all these things. That's why we find there is so many varieties in this world. And the mode of the material nature gives a particular body. Once living entity comes into this material nature, the spirit soul comes, it gets a body according to its past karmic activity and the desire that he had to enjoy. And that's why he comes to this world and he gets the body. So the living entity, due to false ego, it starts identifying with that body. So originally we all are spirit souls, but because of the false ego, we think that we are the body, we are not the soul. So that's how we falsely identify in the body, and because of falsely identifying, we get attached to this body. We are so much attached to our bodies, like we think we are this body and we forget our real identity, and that attachment brings suffering in this world. So material nature, whatever actions and we perform in this body, we starts to get the reactions for that. If we perform good actions, we get good reactions, and then we come back to get the rewards. If we perform bad actions, then we get similar like bad reactions, and we also have to come back to take the punishments. So, but the super soul is, it doesn't abandon the living entity. Super soul comes with the living entity and stays, it's in the heart through his pervasive energies. So, but super soul does not interfere with the independence, minute independence that they have given living entity to enjoy. Just like a father, the father, he gave, when he saw his son has a desire to drive the car, he gave that car just to make him happy. That's how Lord is our eternal Father. So he also gave that desire to us. Okay, you can go and have independence and enjoy. So but what happened is, when we got that independence, the living entity, we wanted to lord over the material nature. And why this? Because Maya also makes us think that we are the masters now, we can enjoy, and it tries to create that situation, and we also think that we can enjoy fully, and the more we try to enjoy, the more we get entangled. Why? Because again it leads to attachments, and attachments leads to frustration, and again the cycle continues. We end up in the cycle of birth and death. So let's try to understand the three modes, how they are conditioning us in this world. So the first mode is mode of goodness. So those mode of goodness is also called sattva guna. Guna is also called rope. Like there are, if you see the rope, it has fibers which are twisted in like 3 forms, and it's very tightly bound rope. So that's how gunas are. They also tightly bind us. So those in the mode of sattva guna, they are knowledgeable and they are also happy souls. Like they are happy because they have knowledge. They know the laws of the scripture. They work accordingly, and so they have less suffering. And they are not they are the person in the mode of sattva guna, they are free from sinful reaction because they are knowledge, because of knowledge they think and then they act. So but what happens, how these like persons in mode of sattva gunas, they are bound to this material world because they are good people. They are bound because they become proud of their knowledge. They think that I am better and than the other souls. So this knowledge, this proudness binds them. And also they become satisfied with their life. They don't over endeavor, they are satisfied because they know the rules of the scriptures and they obey that. So they become complacent. So after death, when they leave the body, they go to higher planetary system, but they do not become free from the cycle of birth and death. They have to come again. So because they have not purified their desires. So next we see is the mode of passion. So the people who are in mode of passion, how are they bound in this world? They are bound by, they over endeavor. They work so hard to accumulate lot of things. Like you may have a house, but they want bigger house, then they want big. So they are never satisfied with what they have. And they are always looking for more enjoyment, and more enjoyment brings more suffering. And also, they also want to enjoy so much, therefore it results in misery. And the mode of passion also creates lust and greed in a person, because they want to enjoy their senses also. So there is no liberation, because in mode of goodness itself we see the person is not able to liberate. So then how we can talk about the mode of passion, the people getting liberated? Why? Because they are fruitive workers, so they are bound by their activities. The more they work, the more they have to come to enjoy the results or to suffer. So in this way they enter into this vicious cycle, and they do not become free. The third is mode of ignorance. So people in the mode of ignorance, they do not know what is what. Like they are very lazy to even know things. So they don't have any knowledge. They have capacity, but they don't want to endeavor. And they are simply lazy, and they eat stale food, and eventually they degrade in the human life. Like they start taking intoxications, they sleep a lot, and then they degrade from human life. So these all 3 modes, we see how they are binding in this world. We cannot liberate. We are not able to liberate from them. And there is always competition between these modes. Sometimes we are in mode of goodness. The goodness is predominant. Sometimes the mode of passion is predominant. So as long as we have this material body, the actions and reactions are carried by the modes of material nature, and they keep us entangled. So material energy keeps binding us more and more. So the soul has, God has given the minute independence. So depending on soul's desire, we can either get liberated or we can entangle in this material world. So we have a choice that how we can act, that in a way we can either get above these modes and transcend that mode and go back to our eternal Father, or we can stay in this world, keep enjoying, keep suffering, keep enjoying, or stay in that cycle of birth and death. So although we are undergoing so many miseries, but the living entity thinks himself to be the master of the body. Like he thinks that he is the master, but he is, in reality, he is neither the proprietor nor the controller, because all the actions and reactions of living entity are due to the modes of material nature. Everything is managed by modes of material nature. So how we can understand this is, first the desire is there. So soul initiates that desire. And when it initiates the desire, it is responsible for its action, because he is the one who is desiring that. And when the soul initiates the desire, that desire is sanctioned by the Lord, who is seated in the heart of the living entity as a super soul. So super soul sanctions that desire, and then the desire is carried out by the modes of material nature. But Lord is not responsible. Even though Lord sanctions our desire, he is not responsible for the actions and reactions that come on us because of our modes of material desire. Both material energy and living entity is subordinate to Lord. So that's how we can understand that even though we want to become master, but we are not the only doer. So we can never become masters. We are subordinate. So, but we find that we want to enjoy, and that's why we are stuck in this world. But there is so much misery, but some people can say we are happy with that, because in this body we are also enjoying happiness. So how we can explain them that the happiness that they are that feeling, actually that happiness is illusionary, it is not the real. It's because of the modes we are thinking that we are happy, but actually living entity is suffering. And we can understand from the example of a camel. Like a camel, when it like he's eating that stick with lot of thorns, so the blood is coming in his mouth and it is mixing with the stick and he is relishing that taste, but in that process his tongue is getting cut due to that sharpness, and he is enjoying, but in a way he is suffering inside, but he thinks that he is enjoying, and it ends into the suffering, like his mouth is really hurt. But similarly we think we are enjoying, but in a way what we are enjoying, we are creating more karma, we are more getting entangled in the grip of this modes. So like in this picture we can see all these modes by like a rope, they are making us dance. They are making us dance because we don't have knowledge that we are suffering. So this material world is very harsh, like we can see even for the, not only for humans, even for the living entities, like in the animal kingdom if you see, there is so much of suffering. Even if we just like there is no security at all, like they are when we see the Discovery Channel and all, we can see how these living entities suffer so badly, and also the humans, like there is always, we have fear of losing our possessions. Whatever we have, we accumulate things that we can become happy, but then we also get fearful that this may be lost, that may be lost. So where is their security? So our enjoyment is actually mixed with suffering, so we cannot call it enjoyment because it is not the pure enjoyment. So happiness is, it has to be without any adulteration, then we can feel happy. So how to understand this, that we are suffering? First of all, we need to know that we are bounded, because many people, they don't even realize that they are suffering, because they think this is okay, like there is some misery, there is some happiness, and this is going okay, I will take again birth and I will, so they think this is normal, but they don't know because they don't have proper knowledge. The knowledge is covered by Maya. We are spirit soul, we are supposed to be full of knowledge, but because we are in the material world, our knowledge is covered. So and in bodily consciousness, we don't have knowledge about the absolute, so that's why we act in duality and we perform actions that are leading to the bondage. So Srila Prabhupada says that in this modern world we are given material education. So material education looks at only external matter, but our body is a combination of spirit and matter. So real knowledge is required to come out of this bondage of the material world, material modes. So, so what is complete knowledge? Complete knowledge is to know the matter, we have to know the spirit, and we have to know what is the source of both. So Krishna is the source of matter and Krishna and spirit. But to understand the spiritual knowledge, we first of all need to come to platform of mode of goodness. Why? Because only in mode of goodness we can receive that knowledge. And also the faith is established in mode of goodness. We cannot approach anything without faith. If we don't have faith, we will not be able to understand. So to understand, to accept these, first we need to have some faith, and that faith comes, the faith on Supreme Personality of Godhead will come only when we are situated in mode of goodness. So that's why Srila Prabhupada gave us 4 regulative principles. No meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex. Because when we follow these regulative principles, it helps us to come to the mode of goodness. So how we can get this knowledge? So we can get this knowledge by surrendering to the Lord. And the Lord also says in the Bhagavad Gita 7.14, Devi Esha Mamamai Devi Esha Gunamai Mama Maya Duratya Maveva Ye Prapadyante Maya Metam Tarantite. The divine energy of mind consists of 3 modes of material nature. It is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered to me can easily cross beyond it. So how we can surrender to Lord? We can surrender to Lord by surrendering to a spiritual master. So when we surrender to a bona fide spiritual master who is coming from the disciplic succession, then we can understand the spiritual knowledge. And how we can understand spiritual knowledge? Because our ignorance is removed by mercy of the spiritual master. The spiritual master teaches us to discriminate between what is real, what is illusion. Bhagavad Gita 4.34 says, Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshantik te gnanam gnaninas tattva darshina. Just try to learn the truth by approaching the bona fide spiritual master, inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge because they have seen the truth. So when we hear from bona fide spiritual master, so then we can get the knowledge, because how we can get the knowledge? By serving the bona fide spiritual master in the devotional and submissive attitude. So we can, so actually knowledge is also two types, like you can have it as just as an information, but only it can be realized when you apply that knowledge. So when we get knowledge from spiritual master and we perform devotional service under the guidance of spiritual master and apply that knowledge, then by mercy of the spiritual master, that knowledge become realized and revealed in our heart. It's not, the spiritual knowledge is not like a material knowledge that we can learn and understand. It has to be, it comes by mercy and it is revealed in the heart. So that's why devotional service is the important aspect. Without devotional service, and we cannot get the realized knowledge. And devotional service also has to be performed in the mode of submission, in the mode of serving, because if we perform devotional service independently, then again we will get stuck in the false ego that I am doing this, and so devotional service will also become material. So it is important for us to keep in mind that when we perform service, we have to make sure that we are not doing it out of false ego. We are doing it in the submissive attitude. So that's how spiritual master reveals that knowledge, and devotional service helps us rise from the modes of material nature. How? Because Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.19 says that when devotional service is established in heart, the mode of passion and ignorance, lust and desire disappears. So eventually, like we don't have to, we can, because we are impure, so like we are contaminated because of the material nature. So when we perform devotional service, eventually with the mercy of Guru and Krishna, our heart is purified. Our heart is purified when we are, because we are applying the knowledge, performing the devotional service, and slowly all the mode of passion, mode of ignorance, it disappears, the lust disappears, and eventually we become situated in the mode of goodness. So when we become situated in the mode of goodness, then we are able to receive the knowledge that spiritual master is giving us, and we realize that what is our constitutional position. We are actually, we are the part and parcel of the Lord. We realize the supreme position of Lord as an eternal Father, and we have lost, like it's because of our false ego. We have come here to enjoy independently. So we realize that position, and when we realize this position, we work without attachment, because we understand that, oh, we are not the doer, Lord is the doer, we are subordinate, and we have to be submissive and we have to serve the Lord. Just like even in this material world, a father, mother, we can never come out of their debt because they have given us this body. So what to talk about spiritual father who has given us the spirit soul? So we are eternally indebted to him. So by serving him, we can go back to the Father who is who is missing us so much, because he has made so many arrangements for us. So we can come to him. So by devotional service, we eventually go back to Godhead. So there are some, like we can also see some practical tips that we can do, like how to get out of this, like what will help us get out of this material bondage. So the first important thing is association. Can you please go to the next slide? So the association is very important, because association is very powerful and it is also very contagious. So Srila Prabhupada gives this example that if one starts to accompany the bunch of drunkards, then they would desire to drink and eventually can become drunkard in their association. So association can be a powerful tool to get out of material life. So how we can understand that? Like iron is not fire. Iron rod, if you take, it is not fire. But when it is put in the fire, and by a constant association of that fire, that rod also becomes fire, because it is in constant association of fire. So similarly, detachment from material activities, it is not possible by our own. But when we are constantly associated with those who are detached, like we are associated with pure devotees, we come to temple. That's why Srila Prabhupada made a beautiful program. So we can, together associate, and in that association we can slowly come out of that bondage that we all are having, because in association of devotees we will purify our false ego that is holding us in this material world. So our false ego is purified, and we work not to satisfy our senses, but we work to satisfy the senses of Lord. We perform devotional service together, and when we do that, our mode, we start to come out of our modes, and eventually we rise to the platform of purity, the mode of goodness, and from there we rise to Shuddha Sattva, from where we can access that transcendental knowledge. So the second thing which is very important is reading books like Srila Prabhu, reading books which are bona fide in bona fide samprada, and which gives us the right knowledge. So many people read these books, on spirituality, but they are still stuck in this mode. In fact, they are even getting more entangled because they misinterpret all those books and religion, and they consider themselves to be God. So it is actually, we have to be very careful. So that's why we have to read the books written by Srila Prabhupada, and also the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita as it is, which Srila Prabhupada gave purports to. So we can understand it well, because when we read about the pastimes of the Lord, activities of the Lord, and we understand them, like we can understand them through purports of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada has made us so easy to understand this literature. His purports clearly make us see like how we are in ignorance, and what Srimad Bhagavatam is trying to tell us, because on our own we may again misinterpret those books because we are not situated properly. So when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, the real identity that we have is, we come to that real identity, and the false identity, like the bodily consciousness which we are in, we get rid of that bodily consciousness. So, and also when we read about the pastimes of Lord, the activities of Lord, we come out from the pangs of material existence. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tatvatah tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. One who understands the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode. So Lord is so kind, he came to this material world, he performed various activities so that we can, just by meditating on those activities, reading about them, we can go back to him, because he doesn't need to come to earth. He is the master, and he can perform through all his energies. He can perform right from his spiritual abode all the activities that he wants to do. But it is for our sake, just like a father for child's sake makes so many arrangements that he can not get lost. So Father, he gave us all this literature, he gave us his pure devotees. So we follow that and we go back to him, and we get out of this false identity and bondage. So reading Srila Prabhupada books, Srimad Bhagavatam, and pure devotees' commentaries on Bhagavad Gita give us purest understanding as it is. That helps us eliminate all our doubts, misconceptions about actual reality, and we make progress on the path of devotional service. Third is chanting. The chanting is most important thing which we can do to get out of this bondage. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Shikshashtakam declares that the holy name of Lord has all Lord's potencies. So when we come in the material world, we come because we have desire, and we have desire, so we are suffering. So all the desires are stored in our mind, and our mind is contaminated because of those desires. So when we chant, the chanting clears that mind, but we have to chant offenselessly, because if we just chant and we are making offenses, we may not purify ourselves. So first we have to chant offenselessly, then that spiritual knowledge will automatically manifest in the heart of living entities. And by chanting holy names, the ignorance is destroyed. Our heart is purified, and genuine love is established in our heart. And when genuine love is established, we get a broader vision. Like right now, we are seeing so many differences, even though we know we are part and parcel of the Lord, but we see world through bodily consciousness. So that's why there is hatred. We are not able to connect to people because our vision is faulty. But when our heart is purified, then genuine love is established, then we can see everyone as we are part and parcel of the God. So we can see the spirit soul in the other person also. So when we see that, then the universal brotherhood which everyone they are trying so hard to bring peace in this world. But all efforts are actually made on bodily consciousness. So they never reach to spirit soul level because they don't have that knowledge. So no matter how much they are trying, still there is so much violence. In fact, crime is even increasing because we are not seeing everyone at that level. So equal vision is very important, and that's how we can realize we all belong to Lord. Like Lord is our Father and we all belong to Him. So to realize that, the chanting helps us that, and when we chant that way, we can have very beautiful relationship in this world with all of them, even including living entities. Like politicians, they talk about bringing changes, and they talk about compassion, but then they are killing cows, they are killing the animals because they don't see living entities as our they are also part and parcel of the Lord. They consider them different and they harm them. So that is not what is needed. Actually, we have to see, that's how we have to take care of the cows. We have to take care of all living entities, and that can happen when we chant and practice Krishna consciousness. So hearing and chanting glories of the Lord, when we do that, it gradually all disturbances are eliminated from our mind. And by hearing glories of the Lord, one realizes his real position, and by grace of the Lord, we become pure. That's how we can come to that Shuddha Sattva, and we can go to back to Godhead. And the last one, actually these are the ABCDs that we can apply to get out of the bondage. So the last one is D. The D is for diet. So diet, prasadam is the most important, especially if anyone who thinks about ISKCON, the first thing that comes to mind is prasadam. You can taste that love in that prasadam. It's so lovingly, kindly offered to Krishna. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachati Tadamahami Bhaktam Upahartam Ashnami Prayatatmana. So Krishna says that those who eat food which is offered, then and so when you offer that food, it is purified. So actually the food it becomes free of contamination, and when you eat that food which is free of contamination, you get release from the clutches of Maya. Because what we are doing, if we are not offering to Lord, actually we are making an offense, because everything belongs to Him. We are just His property, like we cook and we eat for ourselves. But when we offer to Lord, then the food is sanctified, it is purified, and also the sin is removed from the food. We don't get any sin. And the consciousness, the level of consciousness, is meant pure. Otherwise your consciousness become contaminated by the consciousness. There are so many, we just saw the modes of material nature. So people in different modes are cooking. So their consciousness is going into that preparation. But when you offer it to Lord, it purifies consciousness, it purifies, and the food becomes sinless. And when you consume that food, so you are no longer consuming the sin. You are, just by eating, Srila Prabhupada says, just you eat your way back home, back to God. So that is the easiest thing. So that's how we can go back to our Father, loving Father, and we can become happy, and that happiness will be permanent. So thank you so much, devotees. I'll give it to Prabhu, and sorry, I am any offenses, if mistakes they are there, please forgive me.
So we'll just take one more minute. So today we also have the disappearance day of Kashishwara Pandita. So we'll just try to hear briefly about Kashishwara Pandit, and so he was a disciple of Sri Ishwarapuri. So Ishwarapuri was the spiritual master of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Ishwarapuri, he sent two of his disciples, Govinda and Kashishwara Pandita, to Jagannath Puri to humbly serve the Lord Chaitanya. So his spiritual master is sending two of his disciples. That means they are the god brothers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So they were sent to Lord Chaitanya and to serve him. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very reluctant to accept the service because they were, his god brothers. But then he finally agreed because that was his guru's wish. So Kashishwara Pandita, he was very strongly built. So what he would do is he would walk before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and his job would to push people around, because people were always trying to touch Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would go for Jagannath's darshan, they will make like 3 rings around Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in the first ring or the innermost ring, they will have Nityanand Prabhu and like the close devotees. And then they will have the second ring, where the Kashishwara Pandit and other devotees, they will be there to protect Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he has so much love and devotion towards Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So what happened is when Srila Rupa Goswami, he found the deity of Govinda Dev in Vrindavan, he notified Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Kashishwara to move to Vrindavan for worshipping the Srila Rupa Goswami's deity of Govindaji. So Kashishwara Pandit said, "My Lord, if I must give up your association, my heart will split into 2." Like so much love he had for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So out of compassion for his devotee, Lord Chaitanya, he gave him a deity of himself that was so perfectly formed and it exactly resembled the Lord. And the name of that deity is Gaura Govinda. So here you can see the deity there on the right side of Radha Govinda Dev. That's the Gaura Govinda deity. In fact, there is a zoomed in picture also on the right side. So that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did. He gave him his own deity. And then Kashishwara Pandit became happy and he went to Vrindavan to serve the Gaura Govinda and the Govindaji. So today this deity of Gaura Govindaji and Govindaji, they are in Jaipur, Rajasthan, because of the Mughals attack, all the deities were moved from Vrindavan. But I think that's where they are worshipped. And Kashishwara Pandit's original samadhi is in the 64 samadhi area in Vrindavan. So Kashishwara Pandit ki jai, Vaishnava Thakur ki jai. Thank you so much everyone. Raja Vidya Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Sorry we took a lot of time, but if there are any questions and comments, we can be here for some more time. Yes. So the quota is 1 question.
Devotees, anyone in the temple hall or on the online? Yeah, if you have any question, please raise your hand. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu and Mataji. Really, really nice class. So, Prabhu, during the class you talked about that when Mahavishnu, and I may make a mistake in that question, but he's entering 4 things in the Pradhana: the living entity, the gun and a karma, the gun and karma.
The living entity is the karma, the swabhava and the time.
And the time. So I thought the living entity already has the gun and swabhava, but are these considered separate from the living entity?
Yeah, they are separate. So the living entity comes with a guna and karma. So let's say last time, so like think about it as a profile, like in a computer time, we say, okay, this is how when the annihilation happened, this is what a living entity was in the status of so living entity, what was his guna, his swabhava and his karma. So that status, when it goes back into the unmanifested, it's saved with the Mahavishnu. And when it comes back again as a creation, all those things come back. And then so it starts, I'm just giving it as an example. So let's say, somebody was a monkey, when the annihilation happened. So when the creation starts again, it would be the next step as that, because that's what the living entity was trying to desire at that time. So that way, all those things come together, and then the living entity is the continuation happens, because Lord is not trying to influence what the living entity was desiring. So the desires were there at the time of annihilation, and then once he went back to Mahavishnu's body, when it comes back, those desires were preserved as is, there is no alteration, even though it's ironic that even though we are in the Lord's body and stay there, but still we like to keep ourselves, our desires don't sync with Lord's desire. We still like to keep our independence, our free will there. And then that's why, like, when we come out again, all those things come back, and then we get, the body, that's in the progression.
And Prabhu, just related question. So, and I was trying to hear it, but this is just to confirm my understanding about this one. So when the pradhan comes, and after that which is unmanifested, and when the living entities are coming in, is there a time period? I think you said thousands of years, but I just wanted to see like how.
So the all four things are impregnated, in the pradhana, like in the unmanifested, and then once it goes in there, like, I can probably try to explain that as like a pregnancy time, so everything goes in there, but then after a period of 1,000 years, Mahavishnu again goes in, so until that time the pradhana is agitated, the process is continuing, so the material elements which were unmanifested status, they are manifesting, so everything is coming into place, and then Mahavishnu, once everything is, Mahavishnu comes in, and then the Lord Brahma comes out as a first living entity of the universe.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu, for nicely explaining all the creation and nicely explaining the class, Prabhu. Thank you, Mataji. We want more classes. With that, we are moving on to next part of our program, Aarti. Please stand up, devotees. We can have Aarti.
Rajavidya Bhagavad Gita ki
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णापृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनेति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Rama Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Haraya Rama, Krishna Yadvaya Rama, Yadvaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Rama. Hare Haraya Rama, Krishna Yadvaya Rama, Yadvaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Rama. Hare Haraya Rama, Krishna Yadvaya Rama, Yadvaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Rama.
Yadvaya Namaha, Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Gopal Govind Ram Shri Madhusudanam Giridhari Gopinath, Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohanath.
Gari Gopinath Madhava Mohan.
Gopal Govind Ram Shri Madhusudanam,
Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan.
Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohanath.
Gari Gopinath Madhava Mohan.
Hare Haraya Rama, Krishna Yadvaya Rama, Yadvaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Rama.
Nama Krishna Yadvaya Namaha, Yadvaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita,
Kanya Shri Advaita Sita.
Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavad Gita.
Snava Bhagavata Gita.
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita,
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita.
Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavad Gita.
Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita.
Hari Haraya Rama, Krishna Yadvaya Rama, Yadvaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Rama.
Yaya Nama Krishna Yadvaya Namaha, Yadvaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha,
Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunatha.
Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha,
Shri Jiva Gopala Jaya Bhatta Raghunatha.
Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha,
Sanatana Raghunatha.
Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha.
Shri Jiva Gopala Jaya Bhatta Raghunatha.
Hare Haraya Rama, Krishna Yadvaya Rama, Yadvaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Rama.
Hare Nama Krishna Yadvaya Namaha, Hare Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Jai Radha Nila Madhav, Jai Radha Nila Madhav, Jai Radha Nila Madhav, Jai Radhe.
Jaya Radha, Radhe.
Jai Radha Giridhari, Jai Radha Giridhari, Jai Radha Giridhari, Jai Shri Radhe.
Jaya Radha Giri, Jaya Radha
Giridhari
Radhe.
Jai Radha Sham Sundar Radha Sham Sundar Radhe.
Jaya Radha Sham Sundar Radha Sham Sundar Radhe.
Jai Radha Kunj Bihari, Jai Radha Kunj Bihari, Jai Radha Kunj Bihari, Jai Shri Radhe.
Jaya Radha Kunj Bihari, Jaya Radha Kunj Bihari, Jaya Shri Radha.
Jai Nittai Gaurang, Jai Nittai Gaurang, Jai Nittai Gaurang, Jai Nittai Gaurang.
Jaya Nittai Gauranga, Jaya Nittai Gauranga, Jaya Nittai Gauranga, Jaya Nittai Gauranga.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol,
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमाद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की वृंदावन धाम की नवदीप धाम की यमुना देवी गंगा देवी तुलसी देवी भक्ति देवी की बृहत मृदंगा की हरिनाम संकीर्तन की सामवेद भक्त वृंद की गौर प्रेमानंदे ऑल ग्लोरीज टू असेंबल्ड डिवोटीज all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to month of Kartik, Hare Krishna temple ki.
पूर्वक्षः
हिरण्यकाशीपूर्वक्षः
हिरण्यकाशीपूर्वक्षः
शीलटङ्कानकालाये
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 इतो नरसिंहो परतो नरसिंहो
हितो नरसिंहो परतो नरसिंहो
इतो नरसिंहो परतो नरसिंहो
हितो नरसिंहो परतो नरसिंहो
यतो यतो यामि ततो 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 नरसिंहो
बाहे नरसिंहो हृदये नरसिंहो
बाह्ये नरसिंहो हृदये नरसिंहो
नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपद्ये
नरसिंहमजिं शरणं प्रपदे
नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपद्ये
मजिं शरणं प्रपदे
तव करकमलवरेणका अद्भुतशृङ्गा दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गा केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
करकमलभरेणका अद्भुतशृङ्गा दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गा केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
तव करकमलवरेणका अद्भुतशृङ्गा दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गा केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
करकमलभरेणका अद्भुतशृङ्गा दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गा केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा
जय जगदीश हरे
जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव
जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव
जय प्रह्लाद महाराज जय प्रह्लाद महाराज जय प्रह्लाद महाराज जय प्रह्लाद महाराज
जय प्रह्लाद महाराज जय प्रह्लाद महाराज जय प्रह्लाद महाराज जय प्रह्लाद महाराज
नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल
Hare Krishna devotees, now we will sing Damodarastakam and will also offer the ghee lamp. So Prabhu, Satsara Prabhu will do and we will follow. I request all elders to go first. Yes, you can start singing. Give a little.
नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानम्
नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानम्
यशोदाभियोलुदलादवमानम् परामृष्टमत्यन्ततो धृतगोप्य
यशोदाभियोलुकालाधवमानम् परामृष्टमत्यन्ततो धृतगोप्या
रुदन्तं मुहुर्नेत्रयुग्मं नृचन्तम् कराम्भोजयुग्मेन शातकनेत्रम्
रुदन्तं मुहुर्नेत्रयुग्मं मृजान्तम् कराम्भोजयुग्मेन शातकनेत्रम्
मुहुश्वासकं पात्रीरेखाङ्ककण्ठ स्थितग्रैव दामोदरं भक्तिपदम्
मुश्वासकं पात्रीरेकाङ्ककान्था स्थिताग्रैव दामोदरं भक्तिबद्धम्
इति दृक्स्वलीलाभिरानन्दकुण्डे स्वघोषं निमज्जन्तम् आख्यापयन्तम्
इति दृक्ष्वालीलाभिरानन्दकुण्डे स्वघोषं निमज्जन्तम् आख्यापयन्तम्
तदेशिताग्नेषु भक्तजितत्वं पुनः प्रेमतस्तां शतावृत्ति वन्दे
तडीयेषिताग्नेषु भक्तजितत्वं पुनः प्रेमतस्तं शतावृत्ति वन्दे
वरां देवमोक्षं न मोक्षावधिं वा न चन्यं ऋणेऽहं वरेशादपीह
वरं देवा मोक्षं न मोक्षां वधिं वा न चाण्यं वृणेऽहं वरेशादपीह
इदं ते पूर्णाथ गोपालबालं सदा मे मनस्याविरस्तं किमन्ये
इदं ते वपुर्नाथ गोपालबालं सदा मे मनस्याविराष्टं किमन्ये
इदं ते मुखाभोजम् अत्यन्तनीलैर्वृतं कुन्तलैस्निग्धरक्तश गोप्य
इदं ते मुखाम्भोजम् अत्यन्तनीलैर्वृतं कुन्तालस्निग्धारक्तैश्च गोप्या
मुहुशुम्बितं बिम्बरक्तधरं मे मनस्याविरस्तामलं लक्ष्यलाभै
मुहुश्चुम्बितं बिम्बारक्ताधरं मे मनस्याविराष्टं मालं लक्ष्यलाभ्यै
नमो देवदामोदरानन्त विष्णो प्रसीद प्रभो दुःखजलाभिमङ्गम्
नमो देवा दामोदर अनंत विष्णु प्रसिद्ध प्रभो दुःखजलाभिमग्नम्
कृपा दृष्टिवृष्ट्याति दीनवतानु गृहाणेश मामज्ञामिध्यक्षदृश्य
कृपा दृष्टिवृष्ट्याति दिनं बतानो गृहाणेशमज्ञं मेध्यक्षदृश्याय
कुबेरात्मजौ बद्धमूर्त्यैव यद्वत् त्वया मोचितौ भक्तिभाजौ कृतौ च
कुबेरात्मजौ बद्धमूर्तैव यद्वत् त्वया मोचितौ भक्तिभजौ कृतौ च
तथा प्रेम भक्तिं स्वकामे प्रयच्छ न मोक्षे ग्रहो मेऽस्ति दामोदरेह
तथा प्रेम भक्तिं श्वाकं मे प्रयाच न मोक्षे ग्रहो मेऽस्ति दामोदरेह
नमस्तेऽस्तु दाम्ने स्फुरदीप्तिदाम्ने त्वदीयोद्धराय यथा विश्वस्य धाम्ने
नमस्तेऽस्तु धाम्ने स्फुरदीप्तिधाम्ने त्वदीयोदराय यथा विश्वस्य धाम्ने
नमो राधिकायै त्वदीयप्रियायै नमो अनन्तलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यम्
नमो राधिकायै त्वदीया प्रियायै नमो नान्तलीलायै देवाय तुभ्यम्
नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपम् लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानम्
नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपम् लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानम्
यशोदाभियोलुदलादवमानम् परामृष्टमत्यन्ततो धृतगोप्य
यशोदाभियोलुखालाधवमानम् परामृष्टमत्यन्ततो धृतगोप्या
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Radha Damodar Radhe.
Jaya Radha Damodar Radha Damodar Radhe.
Jaya Radha Damodar Radhe.
Jaya Radha Damodar Radha Damodar Radhe.
Jaya Yashomati Nandana Yashomati Nandana Yashomati Nandana Yashomati Nandana.
Jaya Yashomati Nandana Yashomati Nandana Yashomati Nandana Yashomati.
Jaya Yashomati Nandana Jaya Yashomati Nandana Yashomati Nandana Yashomati.
Jaya Yashomati Nandana Yashomati Nandana Yashomati Nandana Sri Radhe.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Nitya Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol. Nitya Gaura Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. यशोदा दामोदर की, राधा दामोदर की, शिला प्रभुपाद की. Thank you all for